Welcome back to the second recording for the Molecular Commotion Prelab. As you saw, I just made two different mugs of sugar water, and where it asked me to describe the physical characteristics of the contents, they were both clear. However, it took the 5 teaspoons of sugar longer to dissolve because there was still like a pile of it at the bottom of the mug. So why is there a difference in how the contents of the mugs taste? Well, the reason why is because one mug had more sugar and it was sweeter. So which mug contains a solution that is more concentrated? The one with 5 tablespoons of sugar. And what does it mean when solution A is more concentrated than solution B? Well, what this means is that solution A has more molecules in it than B. All right, so moving on to number 2, it says in chemistry, concentration is described with the term molar. A 0.1 molar solution is less concentrated than a 3 molar solution. And it says draw the molecular view of each. So what I'm going to draw for you is a particle picture of a 1 molar solution and a 3 molar solution. And it's important for you to remember what a particle picture is because this is something I'm going to ask you to do on your lab sheet. I'm going to pause this video and make my drawing, and then I'll come back and explain it. All right, so I've drawn 2 particle pictures here, and my black line is just showing us the borders of a beaker. You can see that my 0.1 molar solution over on this side is showing me less molecules, which I've represented with pink dots, than my 3 molar solution, which I've also represented with pink dots. And the thing that you can see right away is that the 3 molar solution is more concentrated. It's more crowded with molecules than my 0.1 molar solution is. And like all of the little white space in between these pink molecules would be water, for instance, or some kind of solvent. And so here in the 3 molar, we have much less water and much more substrate or, many other molecules besides water. And one of the things that happens when you increase the concentration and you make the solution more crowded with molecules is that you are increasing the likelihood that the molecules are going to collide or bump with each other. And that is something that is necessary in order for chemical reactions to occur. Whereas in our 0.1 molar solution, we have a lot more space in between each molecule here, and so it's a little bit less likely that they're going to collide with each other and cause a reaction. Okay, let's move on. Number 3 says describe the movement of molecules when you add energy to them. Well, when you add energy to molecules, it's kind of like giving a small child all of their Halloween candy to eat at one time. And what happens to that small child? They're like bing, 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 like knocking off the walls because now they've got all this energy from all of the sugar that they've just eaten. Well, that's kind of what you're doing when you're increasing the energy of different molecules. And so if I were to describe the movement of molecules when we add energy to them, I would just say they move faster. And how does adding energy affect collisions between molecules? Well, just like you could describe this child that has eaten all of his Halloween candy at one time is bouncing off the walls. That's exactly it. The molecules are going to collide more often, but also with a lot more strength, with a lot more force. So collisions are more frequent and occur with more force. And so what would happen to the rate of reactions when we add energy to the molecules? Well, it would happen faster. So the rate would increase. Okay, so number 4 says, in which solution, the 0.1 molar or the 3 molar? So that's referring back to my picture with the pink dots that are representing molecules. So in which one of those will the molecules collide with one another more often? Explain your answer. Well, my molecules that are in the 3 molar will have more collisions. There are, the reason why is because there are more molecules to knock into each other. I was just going to add that it's a more crowded solution with less space between the molecules. All right. There we go. Okay. And now we have something where we need to define surface area. And surface area is simply the space on the outside of a three-dimensional shape object, I guess would probably be the better thing to say there. And so number 6 says, which has more surface area, a whole king-size Snickers bar or a king-size Snickers bar that has been cut into multiple pieces? One misconception that students have is that since the whole Snickers bar is bigger, it must have more surface area. But in fact, the king-size Snickers bar that has been cut into multiple pieces would have more surfaces. By actually taking that Snickers bar and chopping it up, you are exposing more surfaces to the environment. Sorry about that. I had to let my dog in. Okay, so anyway, in order to explain this to you a little bit better, I have a couple of images to share with you. My first image is that of a Rubik's Cube. And so the Rubik's Cube is like the king-size Snickers bar that I have right here. A Rubik's Cube is, well, a cube. And just like all cubes, it has 6 sides. And so if you were going to wrap this Rubik's Cube as a birthday present to a friend, you would have 6 sides that you would need to cover. But let's say that you wanted to be clever and you wanted to trick your friend a little bit. And instead of giving your gift away by simply wrapping this all as one big cube, you decided to take it apart so that all of the pieces were kind of separated like this. Well, each piece in a Rubik's Cube is a tinier cube in and of itself. And so each square that we see on this larger Rubik's Cube, like the one that we see here has 6 sides, this one has 6 sides, so does this one, so does this one. Well, now, I mean, even just to wrap all of the cubes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all 9 cubes that make up this face of the entire Rubik's Cube, you now have 54 surfaces that you have to wrap. So the smaller the piece, the more surfaces you have that are exposed to the environment. So the smaller the object, the more surface area you're going to have. And so your answer to number 6 would be not the whole king-size Snickers bar. It would be the king-size Snickers bar that has been cut into multiple pieces. And so which one would dissolve faster in a vat of acid, the king-size Snickers or the one that's been cut up? Well, the answer here would be the one that is cut up. And the reason why it would be the one that was all cut up is, again, because there are more surfaces are exposed to the acid. And so if I were to draw a picture of this, like here's a big chunk, but then let's say that we cut it now in half. So like on the big chunk, we would have, oh, and I should probably make this more like a square. I think that would be better to actually show you. So here is our big chunk, and the number of surfaces that we have that are exposed to the acid, surface 1, 2, 3, 4. But by taking this chunk and by cutting it in half straight down the middle, we have now changed it. So now we have two smaller squares, and now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different surfaces that are exposed to the acid. And so my smaller piece is going, or my smaller pieces are going to dissolve faster in the acid than my larger chunk would, because we have increased the surface area of that candy bar. All right, that's all I've got for you for the pre-lab, guys. Thanks for watching.